How's it
Hey
going,
there.
James?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself? Oh, I just
I'm
asked. I just asked you. Um, cool. So we're finally here. That's
all
awesome.
right. When I saw what it is you want to talk about, I'm like, yeah, that's some topics right there, you know?
Yeah, it's right down your alley. I
hmm
ask question kind of based on the type of content that you put out and you teach. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
Okay.
usually like to watch everybody's content and see what is their niche, what's their alley, and then ask questions around those areas. So
It makes a lot of sense, man. That's clever. It's good.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We can get right into it. So you are a purpose coach. Can you explain me more about that?
Yeah, so I mean, like, it's it's really funny. Like, I kind of end up doing this every time I talk about this, but
Hmm.
when it comes to titles, like, I try to kind of leave them out of it. But for the sake of describing what it is that I do, I call myself a sole purpose coach. So if you think like each of us have a purpose here, you know, it's what drives us, it's what pushes us to make decisions, make choices, to try new things, to exist as a whole, right? So that is what I do. I coach people to discover their purpose and to start living it, you know?
Right. So lead me through a process. If you had to summarize that process into like a few steps, like how do you break down finding out a purpose, a person's purpose that person doesn't even know of? How do you find that out, and then how do you lead them towards becoming that more?
Well, the first thing is to find out where they're at in their life, you know, like how they're feeling, what it is that they're experiencing, things that they're going through, emotions, and just identify what it is that they want to do, where they want to get to, who they want to become, you know, and all those different kind of things. So it starts with what we can call a discovery call, you know, which is why getting on the call and just having a chat, seeing where they're at, you know, have they got a good relationship with their partner? Have they got a good relationship with their parents? Is there anything in the past that's bothered them? Is there anything in the present that's bothering them? And just getting an overall idea of where they are. And then from there, you can start to explore the future, you know, looking at, well, okay, so you're in a relationship you don't like, you hate your job, you're miserable 24/7, you're depressed all the time. So how do we change that? You know, what have you always wanted to do? What have you explored in your life? And you often find quite, you know, answers like, oh, well, you know, I was a dancer in the past, I'd love to start that up again. Or I've always wanted to be a business owner, I've always wanted to do this or do that. And then you just guide that person to making their own choices, discovering their own beliefs, finding their own truth, which is one of the biggest ones, you know, like, because not my truth, this is what I say in my videos, you know, like my truth might not necessarily be the same truth for someone else, you know, so guide them to discover their truth and guide them to discover their purpose, you know, and find out who they are. So it can be a short process or it can be a long process. It's so different for each individual.
Right. I do have a feeling that certain people are a little bit more nitpicky,
Mm,
for lack of a better word, about their purpose. Maybe
mhm.
maybe being a business owner only wasn't good enough, but business owner for a certain type of people, or they like to serve a certain type of niche. Um, do you believe that your trauma and your early pains in life have anything to do with your purpose?
That's a that's a really good question and a really deep question as well. That to answer that, you've got to come from a couple of different places. The first thing is going even past the trauma and having a look at what it is you decided before you came here.
Right.
Now, that sentence in itself will have different belief systems to different people. Some say, well, what do you mean before you came here? You know, and then other people will say, oh, you know, and so that to come from my belief, before we enter this world, we either make certain agreements or we stay on a certain path of learning and growing. Right. I
Right.
mean, I think we can at least be in agreement that we we learn a hell of a lot when we're here, you know.
Right.
So then from that process, you ask yourself the question, okay, you've been through this trauma, you've been through this experience, it sucked, it was horrible, terrible, you know, it had you feeling this, had you feeling this way, but has it prepared you for anything?
Mm.
Right? Is there anything within those experiences that gave you lessons, that gave you abilities or skills that can help others or can help you to do something to help others? And again, like, trying to package that into a small box is impossible because it's infinite. It truly depends on each individual. But from experience and from people I've coached, like, you would be astounded the amount of people that then go on to be the happiest they've ever been because of what they've been through. Now,
Right.
try saying that to someone that's not ready to hear it, like, it's just, that can be taken really badly, but it's super interesting, always so
Right.
interesting.
So that's certainly been my experience, because from my deepest pain and deepest trauma comes the biggest strength and the biggest compassion for that I've ever experienced, and it comes with also the biggest calling as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for some other people, it doesn't work the same way. Maybe because they haven't dived deep enough, or maybe it just doesn't work the same way for them. I'm not sure. That's why I asked that question. But
Mm.
like, for example, there are people who get abused as a kid, that grow up and want to just want to help kids who are abused, and they become the most loving people ever. And then there are people who were abused as a kid and become a UFC fighter and never be abused ever again.
And
So,
that's it, right? and
right.
and it's good you said that as well, because some people just say, looking at UFC fighting, they say, oh well, they're causing pain to others. But in those scenarios, you look at most fighters, most warriors will say, because I'm sure if you're into UFC and things like that, it's a warrior's code. Like, it's even in the
Right.
gym. If you're in the gym, if you're doing any form of sport, in my opinion, there's always that element, that
Right.
fire, that drive.
Mm-hmm.
You can inspire other people to get out of where it is they're at, to push your bodies to the limits, to allow yourself to break through your own boundaries, so that then you can go on to do anything. It's and that was like my discovery through the gym. Like, when I realized I can push my body to any limit, I was like, well, what else can I push? And it's like, that's the process you go through.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I have a question now. How do you think people, how do you heal from emotional traumas and pain? Like, what's the process here? What do people have to do?
To heal from emotional trauma and pain, there are a few things that need to be looked at. The first thing is what the trauma has done to the individual, right? So let's just take, for instance, a woman, and her father never showed her any love, never showed her any attention. He always, was rude to her or whatever, and pushed us to the side, never included or involved her in anything.
Mm-hmm.
That can lead to all sorts of things, of a lack of self-love, a lack of self-worth. It can lead to questioning everything and putting yourself below other people, which, in itself is one of the worst things that you can do, because that truly, no matter where you are, who you are, how much money you've got, or where you live, it doesn't exist. It's fake. It's smoke and mirrors.
Right.
So when you take a lady who's going through those things, you then have to ask yourself the question, well, is it real? Is it true? Are your belief systems actually accurate? And one of them being, okay, so you think you're ugly and worthless.
Mm.
Is that true? Is that really true? If we look at all of the other things that are going on in your life, if we look at this, if we look at what your father perhaps had gone through, what he experienced in his life, the reasons why he didn't show you any love or attention, can we then empathize with him, and then realize that what he did to you wasn't because of you, but because of what he experienced? Then, if you can get to that level through, and I'm talking from a coaching perspective now, from a loving, nurturing place, then perhaps you can get to the point where this woman, this individual, forgives, and then actually.
Right. So I've gotten to that point, right? And then what I've experienced is, I've gotten to a point where I'm like, wow, this is just a cycle. Like, my parents did this to me, not because of me, but this is because my parents did it to them, or they never learned the right way and they never figured it out. So they're stuck in a cycle. And so the only thing they can teach me is that same cycle. And so I realized that, and I felt like I have forgiven my parents somewhere in my head. I'm like, okay, I've done all this meditation, I've done all this journaling, I figured this out. I thought I have forgiven them, but it feels like there's something still clinging on. Like,
Mhm.
even if intellectually I understand it, but emotionally I can't free myself from it.
Mhm.
So that's where I really want to find out how to release those emotions out of your body, because I feel like it's stuck here. It's not just up here, but it's stuck in your memory, in your memory muscle memory. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the first thing to understand is that's all right. Because, and I'm going to talk from a masculine perspective, not as you saw from the video, not in a physical perspective, but an energetic perspective.
Right.
Having that anger and fire towards your parents and what they did, that's all right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And some people might be like, oh, how can you? But it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you get to the point where you don't take it out on them, but you can still have that and be like, F you, and like, you did this to me and how dare you, like, if you can go through that and allow yourself to go through that process, it can. And if you take the guilt away, other people say, like, even me, even when I say, come from a loving place, come from love, you can come from love and feel what's human at the same time. Right. That's the key. Don't deny yourself everything. Like I put up a couple of stories the other day about feeling extremely ridiculously angry and aggressive for no reason, but I didn't take it out on anybody.
Right.
And that's where, like, the maturity of the growth, the ascension, the learning comes from. It's all right to feel that, because in some cases you have no choice but to feel it. But taking out on others, that's where it gets tricky. But to answer your question, right, how do you then let go further? How do you let go of those physical feelings and emotions? I might not have the full answer to that question. I mean, I'm actually currently studying Qigong. I'm currently studying different sacred geometric practices, breathing techniques, which can all help. But in my opinion, it's when you keep on working on your perspective every single day. And you will eventually get to the point where you reach a certain level where you almost don't care about anything. So, and here's the interesting thing. You say, well, you don't care about anything. Well, then why would you have to love anybody? Why would you have to have a purpose? Like, you're kind of contradicting your own teachings, right? But when you don't care about anything, in my opinion, you're then free to love unconditionally, because it doesn't matter what they did. It doesn't matter what they think. It doesn't matter what you think or what you did. None of it matters. It's all a part of this big theater, this big play we're in. Then when you reach that point where it's like, well, and trust me, you see, like, because some people are then going to say, oh, you see, you're telling me that the real evil things, like people that do, you're telling me that doesn't matter, James? You're telling me that well, here's where you start pushing the boundaries of perspective and knowledge, right? Like, there are levels of when some people, and this isn't to say on a hierarchical level, but just on a progressive level, when you start to get that high, you realize that nothing matters. And of course, if you're in the scenario, it does matter. But once you get yourself out of it, you can free yourself from it. And then, like I say, that's where you can truly love unconditionally. But like, it's one of those topics where, and those answers, those things to invite into, where you've really got to be ready to hear that.
It's definitely a new paradigm of thinking, for sure. Yeah. I was watching a documentary of Ram Dass the other day, and he talks about the suffering that we all experience is because of the clinging of the mind. And so it's kind of similar to what you're saying here, that you're doing these exercise, you're doing these practice enough where you get to a point where you're no longer attached to it anymore. Like, yes, it happened. Yes, it's wrong. But you're no longer attached to it. So you're not suffering from it anymore. And because you're not suffering from it, you're not attached from it, what else are you going to do but love? And
exactly, right. And that's the funny thing, because that's all it is. Someone, and no doubt, and look, it's okay, someone's definitely going to get angry when they first hear that. They'll be like, but it's for them, right? So if somebody gets angry when you say, nothing matters, everything's completely pointless and irrelevant, yet beautiful at the same time, it's for them, because what we're trying to explain, what we're trying to share with you, is when you let go, you then are free. And that's the key to it. It's like, you believe what you choose to believe, but when you can finally let go, you free yourself from worrying about that, from having anger to that, and from having all of these other emotions and things tied to it. So that's the key part of that lesson. I just want to add that bit on.
Right. Absolutely. That's amazing. What does somebody have to do when they're feeling depressed? Like, what's going on there when someone's depressed, and how do they start identifying the problem? Because in my experience with depression, like, when I start noticing it, I don't know what's going on. And same with other people. They just don't know why their life sucks, but it sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And so how does somebody start addressing those issues?
Another amazing question, my friend. And I also know what depression feels like. And when you are depressed, there are no answers,
Mm,
right? Like that's how it feels. You know, you're sat there. It's like, it doesn't matter what I hear. There are no answers. This is how I feel. This is reality for me. There are a few ways I want to answer this. The first way is going to sound kind of masculine. The second way is going to be more expansive. The first way, I believe, is to get sick of being depressed.
mm,
Right? It's to get to the point where you sit there and you're like, I am completely done with being depressed. It's like, I'm finished with it. That's it. Because when you start to get to that point, and I want to use the word catalyst, right? It becomes a catalyst. It becomes something where you sit there and you say, I'm so done with feeling like this. I have to change it.
mm-hmm.
Right. And this is the thing, you know, where it comes down to understanding your own value as well. You know, I know for a fact that my change from depression to slowly getting to where it is that I am now was looking in the mirror, and instead of asking, why is this happening to me? I asked, why am I letting this happen to me?
Mm,
Right? I took my power back. I
right.
put the ball in my court. I took responsibility for my life, because from personal experience, not saying everyone does this, but I was thinking that everything was happening to me, and I was expecting something else to come along and pull me out of my situation, without
Right.
realizing the only person that could do it was me.
Right.
You know, and they were the keys to my salvation, and I'm sure there are a few more, but for now, like, I would seriously look at that for anyone who's depressed. Look at those aspects, you know, be fed up with it, and then take responsibility for it. Whether it's chemically induced, whether you're born with it, whatever, right? It's always my belief that this is that strong, it's that powerful, that it doesn't matter the circumstance of the depression. It's your responsibility to get out of it. So
Right. I absolutely believe in that. And I think that in Western culture, we're very encouraged to take the more feminine approach to it instead of the masculine. And I think that a balance of both works the best, um,
mm-hmm,
at least in my experience. But things never got better when I only took the feminine approach. it,
mm-hmm,
it it just didn't get better. I just stayed in it for a longer period of time. I mean, I felt a little better, but
mm-hmm.
the cycle didn't stop. And when I went to work, no matter what, I pushed myself no matter what. I went to exercise no matter how I felt. Then things started really, really getting better. Then it's almost like the depression just happening in the background now. It's
Mm-hmm.
not in the frontal of my head anymore, even though I still can't fully comprehend why I'm feeling this way, but I can study along the way. But I experienced that when I think depression made me a lot more masculine.
Yeah.
Yeah, in order to take control of that, in order to take control of that and say, like you said, I no longer allow this to keep happening anymore. I must do something. Like, and I think that's something I really want to be talking to the people I know about, that which is the depression doesn't have to stop you from anything. It really doesn't. I think it's like a signal for us to dig deeper that something is wrong in our lives,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't have to take away who we are, or how we choose to respond to that, right?
Absolutely. Well, and you see, you've made an awesome point. You said that um, choosing to respond to it is the key. You know, it's like, that's how you deal with these deeper problems. It's how you choose to respond. And you see, this is why I give my teachings with such an open door, because there is no formula. There is no, and look, like, you know, a lot of people would disagree with this, but there truly isn't. Because just like you said, right? We've done the journaling, we've done the meditation, we've done the affirmations, we've done this, said that, this has done this. And for some people, it's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about discovering and finding out what it is that does work, you know, which can lead you. I mean, every time, like you said yourself, like, depression is almost like telling you something is wrong, right? In my opinion, depression is your body, your soul, everything that you are, screaming at you saying you're not where you're meant to be. Right?
Yeah.
Like, because if you were, you wouldn't be depressed, whether it was chemically induced or not. Your
Right.
body would find a way of twisting it around and pulling out of it, you know? So it's like, for anybody who's depressed, here's another weird way of putting it, right? For anyone who's depressed, be grateful for it. Because if you can acknowledge that your body's telling you that you need to be somewhere else, that's a beautiful thing, because now it's time to start the discovery process.
Right.
You know, let's find out who you are. Let's find out what your purpose is. What are you here to do? You know, because it's clearly not what you're doing now. And that to me is like, man, like, that's awesome.
Yep. So the whole beauty, wisdom I got out of depression, that it was like my body or my soul is like feeling sad that I'm not being who it wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
My soul is not being who it wants to be, and I'm making the wrong decisions. So now it's almost like experiencing this grief, this sadness, and I had to learn that, wow, that's a signal to go the other way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And do you know what? Like, because I know that a question that will pop up in people's minds now and say, oh, right, well, that's a cool idea. Well, how do I listen to my soul? You all know that. Intuition, right? When you go into a situation and every part of you is like, this does not feel right. Something's not right here. I don't like this. That's the voice. You know, like, that's it, easy. There's nothing else to say to it. You know, like, when you have that, and it's funny that this is kind of coming up, because this happened today. I was discussing with one of my good friends, and I was saying, like, something does not feel right about this, right? And I made a vow a long time ago, I will always listen to that, always, hands down, because every single time it's saved me from a situation I didn't want to be in. It's put me on the right path, or it's given me exactly what it is that I wanted. You know, so for those of you that are wondering, how do I speak to my soul? How do I speak to this higher? Just listen to your intuition. We might have 5 senses, but the one they don't tell you about is the 6th one. And that is just gut instinct, right? Gut instinct, gut feeling, all these words that people are just saying and they don't understand the true meaning behind it. You know, like, that's what it is. It's following your gut. It's following, you know, that path.
So how do you get more sensitive with that? Because throughout my experience, there were times where I didn't understand that sensation in my body, in my gut. I thought that it was just me feeling either angry or feeling a certain way, feeling frustrated about something. I didn't take it as a signal of, no, do not go further with this decision, or do not engage in this no longer. You need to exit the situation. I didn't take it as that. I only took it as like anger and frustration, rather than, whoa, this is telling me to go now.
That's a good question. And I don't know if I can give the full answer to this, because there is probably a part to this that is out there that could also be very helpful and useful for it. But in my opinion, it would be asking using the logical part of your brain, right? Engaging the logical part, asking the right questions. Say to yourself, okay, I'm in this situation. What are the outcomes? Right? And often, if you just sit there, let your mind go quiet. This is why everyone talks about meditation, right? Why it's such a good tool. It's not just about finding serenity and finding peace. It's about activating these parts of your brain so that you can get the right answers.
Right.
You know, because when you go there and you start talking to the logical part and you say, okay, well, I'm in this situation. You know, I don't know, the lads want me to go down here and we're probably going to go and wreck this place, or this is going to happen. I'm talking from my childhood, right? Like, this is going to happen. We want to do this. This is not right. How do I feel about this? Obviously not good. Why? Because the outcomes are, well, this could happen. I could get in trouble. I could get in this situation. And none of those are worth going down there and actually taking part in the activity. The only deciding factor is then your social like experience with it. Oh, they're going to think I'm a wuss or whatever. They're going to think that I'm this or that. Then you have to decide for yourself. And this is where you find people start peeling away from the crowd, you know, because, and again, to like link those together, that logical, that emotional side, they all connect together. Right. You know, it all connects with the gut instinct. And when you can say to yourself, yeah, this is a really dumb decision. Okay, let's just listen to that. Then you'll start to really click in and learn your intuition. But the reason why I said about the full description is because, like I say, it comes down to, again, willpower. And it comes down to perspective, understanding, you know, being like, look, I know I'm going to get slack for this with my mates and things like that. But, you know, or if a woman's in a relationship, you know, like, first red flag, like he or she comes up and is like, let me have your phone password. Okay, that's probably not the not the best thing to hear straight away. Like, then you instantly know this person has trust issues, insecurity issues, whatever. So again, following that gut.
Right. The reason why I asked that, because I felt like I've always been very intuitive, but I don't actually know that I'm being intuitive. So there were times where I didn't listen to it, or there were times where I really doubted it, even though I unconsciously been following my intuition this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
But if I knew that I was consciously doing that, or I knew that I was consciously listening to a feeling, then I would have made more right decisions and less wrong decisions, for sure.
Well, in that sense, it's like, because you didn't know what you didn't know, it's all right, because you finally then realized that you didn't know what you didn't know, and now you know.
Right.
So it's, in those scenarios, it's impossible to, it's done, you know. So, and again, like, I'm just trying to like give a, like, sort of bring a conversation around this. Like, this is how I always articulate it. Like, if it's done, if it's finished, then the blessing, the gratitude, the appreciation now is that I realize, man, like, I've got some really good intuitive abilities, you know, I'm connected, you know.
Right.
And that, to me, like, again, here's where, when you start reframing things, that's when you start, if everything's in the depressive state and you keep pulling it out one by one, you get to the point where nothing's in the depressive state and it's all here, all in the appreciation, all in the gratitude. But that's okay, it's a process, you know. Maybe you said the wrong thing to the wrong person, we've all done it, right? Just because I put videos out there about love doesn't mean I've not been an a-hole in the past, you know. We all have been, right? We've all done stuff, we've all said things, my goodness. But it's about just taking one at a time, realizing, you know, that was like, how do I know that the stuff that I said or did or approached that other person with didn't put them on the path to their purpose?
Right.
Hence the idea of nothing matters.
Mm.
Which is such a tricky thing to say, because it's like, when you, I mean, you see, that's this is like when you start going up here, because that's where I start to really like go in and say, like, well, how do you articulate that, you know? Like, it's, yeah, that's I'm
Right.
still working on that one myself.
Right. See, I really like to go up there, but I feel like going up there, it's hard for people to understand. And so I like to ask questions, and I like to go into topic that just takes people to the next step.
Mm-hmm.
Just take people to take the next step towards their calling, the next step towards their true self, whoever they truly want to be, the life they want to live. And like, I watch the documentary, I read those books only for myself, and I don't like to talk to anybody else about it, because I know that it's going to stir up just this whole argument, and then they're not going to see my point of view. And
Interesting.
so I'm only going to bring solutions.
Well, do you know what? Like, here's something I exercise, right? And it's called the 5% rule, right? So if I'm in a conversation with somebody, like, I'll say one thing, and if the first look is like, you know, what are you talking about? I'll be like, oh, just this thing I heard the other day, right? Like, my whole life is like developed and enveloped into this thing, but I'll be like, oh, it's just something I heard the other day, and I'll just let the conversation go. I'll be like, so what games you play on Xbox?
So
Do you know what I mean?
You don't try to open up their mind. You don't try to force that process.
Again, like, that's no, you can't force it. You can't. It's like you have to give things with an open heart. Like, so let me backtrack and take that conversation again. Like, you know, I say to somebody, oh, you know, that atoms don't exist, right? Not atoms don't exist, but atoms aren't solid particles, right? They're a vibration emanating from a single point. Right? If someone says, oh, well, I did an entire science major that atoms are physical, then, like, you see, when you hit that point, you're like, oh, God. Yeah. And then you say, oh, well, have you considered, right? You know, open it up. Have you considered? Or what's your take on it? How do you think? And then when they go through their thing, then and it's like, that's how you develop. And if you approach it in the right way, right? I'll show you something. Like, this is, I don't know if you've ever, like, for the people, like, How to Win Friends and Influence People. You read it, yeah?
Yeah.
This book right here, it's, you know, hands down, it's amazing. And the reason why, and I don't know if it's actually in there, it's been a long time since I've read it, but one of the key things is, like, just approaching every conversation with love, right? Maybe it's not in there, but that, to me, is like, I mean, you know, I've been doing this a long time. I've had a lot of really, like, aggressive messages back. But if I realize, I'm like, look, like, if I've just challenged this entire person's identity right? This entire person's life and existence. What else do I expect? You know, so then I've got to approach it saying, hey, look, I get you feel that way, right? I understand that. Have you considered this? And if it keeps coming at me, just block them or whatever, because it's just like, you know, you're wasting your time at that point. But again, it's just like that process.
So as inexperienced as I am, because I think that I would like my whole identity challenge and my whole existence challenge. I think everybody else would be receptive to the same thing, but there aren't. So,
Well,
I've
and
learned
actually,
that the hard way.
wow, man, I'm sure I did at some point along the line, learn that the hard way. But this is the thing, like, you know, and that's all we do each day. Like, that's what all of life is about. It's about taking those lessons and then applying them, you know, which is why don't feel guilty about anything that happens, about somebody slagging you off or saying, oh, you said this, because it's like, oh, look, you know, wow, I didn't realize it would take that. I'm sorry about that. You've learned your lesson, and then move on to the next thing, you know, because some people, like when we're talking about depression, it's their life. So if you were to say to that person, by the way, did you know that you can get out of your depression? They might come at you with you all guns blazing, right? Because they're like, absolutely not. It's chemically induced. I take medication. I'm gonna.
Right.
And it's like, I get that, right? And here's the thing: it's like, okay, well, I get you've suffered all your life with it. Do you want to continue to suffer with depression? Well, no, of course I don't. Well, then that's why I'm saying what I'm saying. I might have the solution for you. This isn't to attack you. This is to say, I might have the solution to your entire situation, and then see how they respond. If they're still angry, you know that person ain't ready. Or their depression is so much of who they are. Imagine living your entire life thinking you were something you were not.
Right.
For some people, that's like, it's tough. It's hard because they're so focused on their identity, right? I am this, I am that, I have depression, I am depression. And, you know, then you challenge that. Wow.
Yeah, that was tough because I had an ex-girlfriend that was like that. I had an ex-girlfriend that had depression and anxiety, and I can clearly see the triggers that goes on. Like, she normally wouldn't be anxious, and then I see all of her little triggers, and I'm like, oh, there's something deeper here. I want to explore it. I want to ask her about it. But then I realized that has become her identity. Her identity is, I'm this anxious person and I'm this depressive person. So when I try to challenge that, she's like, no, this is chemically like this. And I'm like, look, throughout most of the day, 90% of the day, you're totally fine. And 10% of the day, when these specific things happen, is a pattern. You start having these anxious episodes. And so I don't believe it's a disorder. I believe that is a psychological pattern that is triggered by an external event. And that has been that, and it happened so to you at such a young level, so young that the only thing you know how to do was having an anxious episode. Sorry, having an anxious episode.
I'm asking you to plead.
Yeah, having an anxious episode. So now that it becomes your way of coping throughout your life. So but that's something that she couldn't receive. She couldn't open up her mind to that.
And that's okay, because maybe it'll happen later on down the line. Maybe it'll happen here or there. Like, but that's got to be her. And, you know, like, I'm sure that 99% of the people that may or may not watch this in the future will have had that same experience. You know, they're with somebody or they know somebody, they try to help them, then realize this is not actually possible right now. Hence why I did that video or post the other day about people, you know, walking away, and it can be a gift, vice versa, you know, for them and for you. Because if you're in a relationship, or if you're in a friendship, or you're around people that are not willing to change or just don't know how to, and you're trying to, like you said, like force it upon them, or saying like, look, because you know, it's, you know, there's a part of you that's like, I know you're suffering because of this, because you tell me you're suffering from it. So therefore I want to help you to unravel that, but they're just not ready, you know. And again, like, comes back to identity. For some people, it's who they are, it's their whole life. But it's about finding out, just letting it take its course, you know, let people do their own process, do their own thing. This is why I won't break my back to help anybody. Number one, because there's 7.5 billion potential people out there that need help. But because if someone's not ready in that moment, I'll just let go and say, look, that's okay. if you're not ready, I'm always here with the free content. I'm here for this, but I can't help you. Just be honest with it, for my sake and for their sake.
Right.
So,
Right. And like one of my friends said that you're if you keep doing that, you're wasting your time that you could have helped people who are ready to be helped than trying to help people that aren't ready to be helped. So
it's a wise friend.
yeah. Yep, he's very wise. For sure. So all right, that's so so with all that, right? How does somebody like elevate their vibration? You hear this a lot, like raise your vibe, elevate yourself. Like hear this a lot in the spiritual community. So what does that all mean? I know that encompasses all the things that we've been talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody asks you about how do I raise my vibration, what do you say?
The first thing I say is like, don't lie about it. Like you see all these people like, gotta have high vibe, they're gonna be, and I'm like, relax. I'm like, chill out. Like not every single person. Yeah, good vibes only. I'm like, what happened to them? I love the bad vibes. How am I supposed to learn? It's like, first of all, it's like, just don't lie about what you are. Like people who are like good vibes only and vibing. But I'm like, well, first of all, you're lying to yourself, like, because it is not possible to have good vibes only. The structure of our reality, right, is light and dark, good and bad, right? If you're religious, it's Jesus Christ and Lucifer the devil, whatever. Like it's depicted everywhere in all religion, in all history, in ancient history, everywhere, light and dark. If you think that just the light is the way to getting up there, you're kidding yourself. You have to understand your life. You've got to understand the flow of your process. Like some people who are depressed and listen to the whole idea of good vibes all the time, you got to be high vibe. I'm like, what are you doing to those people? You're making them feel like there's something wrong with them because they don't feel high vibe, which I feel like anger building up in me. So I'm going to chill out a bit, but because it's annoying, because like when people teach and they teach from I don't mean this to sound arrogant or anything like that, but when they teach from a perspective where it's like you're not considering the other person, it's dangerous. Like, and I'm the same as you, my man. Like I've seen a lot of people out there, they post like high vibration only. To reach a high vibration, there's 3 things you need to do. You need to figure out what your idea of love is. You need to understand and feel gratitude and appreciation for anything you can in your life. Don't kid yourself. Right? If you don't feel grateful for what you have, that is okay, right? Ask yourself, if you didn't have running water in the tap, what would that mean for you? If you didn't have food in the fridge, what would that mean for you? If you didn't have clothes on your body, how would you feel if you were outside without a house? This is how you find out what gratitude is. Take, for instance, the other day, it's going to be funny, right? We had the water main blow, right? So we had a pipe blow, so like we had no water. I have loads of these. And I was doing cardio while it happened, training and doing push-ups whilst I was going down the road. When I came back, I'm like, how am I going to have a shower? I'm absolutely rotten stood here. I'm like, how am I going to have a shower? I had these so I could, get myself comfortable, sort myself out after the gym. And I felt good. Instantly, I'm like, complete gratitude for having those water bowls, right? Someone be like, oh, it's just a bottle of water, mate. Chill out. I'm like, you don't understand what it gave me, And then to me, the third one is just seeing that everybody else outside of you is you. And that's like an entirely different video, man. Like that's a bigger topic, and that breaks into religious beliefs, ancient history beliefs, this history of our solar system. Like
that one's deep. Yep.
That one's deep. That one's deep, man.
That one's deep. That one's deep. But you know what? That one has had me growing a lot, for sure. That's had me growing a lot and actually considering other people as myself has made me learn more about myself, so much more. And seeing that the parts in them that I don't like and evoke a very strong emotions out of me are parts of me that I need to learn to accept, forgive, and love. Because I'm only pissed off with that so much. If that was me, I would be just as pissed off. If I was, let's just say this person is messy and I'm not, then if I was to allow myself to be messy like them, I would be almost like, I would be super angry with myself instead of having compassion, or you know, the way I projected anger on this person would be how I project anger onto myself. But if I was nice to this person, which means that I would be nice to myself when I'm messy. You know what I mean? Like I kind of saw that. I kind of saw that how my relationship with the parts of them that I don't like would be how I would have that relationship with that part of me,
Mm-hmm.
if I was to be that way one day.
Yeah.
If I
And
was right, if I was to tell somebody that they're weak for being a certain way, that's being weak, or that being like a jerk, then if one day I happen to make a mistake similar, I would call myself those things instead of being able to have compassion for myself. So I think that considering other as myself has been able to help me develop more compassion overall for them and me.
and that's the key. That's the other part, is exactly what you said, is that compassion, right? Because considering other people as you makes you treat them with more love and respect, because you're like, if this was happening to me, I'd
Right.
hate it, right? And that's like, when we talk about Ascension teachings, that's one of the biggest. We need to, because one of the like when I teach Ascension's topics and Ascension knowledge and things like that, it's about either being of service to self or of service to others, right? You're being of service to others in this video because you're bringing you and me together to have these discussions, which when someone else listens to it, they might be like, this is what I've been waiting for all my life, you know? And that's like, seriously though, like some of the stuff we've talked about today, like this stuff can change people's lives massively if they truly understand what we're saying.
Right.
So it's like, to be of service to someone else, you're like, hey, let me do this for you, or I understand where you're coming from. And that's where you can still be yourself, have the fire, be masculine, be a man, have it in, but have love and compassion for others, because it's the smartest thing to do. Because if you're looking after them, you better bet whether or not you've put your boundaries in place, they're going to look after you. So caring for others is like the most selfish thing you can do, hence why they are you.
Wow. That's interesting. I've never heard that one. So I've never heard that one. That's a good one. Caring for other is the most selfish thing to do, hence they are you.
Yeah, right.
Interesting. So the conversation kind of naturally led into this question that I really want to ask. So what's Ascension and what's the point of it?
Okay, so the Ascension, or an ascension, or what it is that we are experiencing on planet Earth right now, is where people have no choice but to learn to love others. They have no choice but to realize and to be of service to others. Now, there are two ways, again, like this is like, just like the other thing we mentioned with seeing other people as yourself, this is a part of that much, much bigger video. But to make it short, if you think of what we've talked about today, we've taken knowledge that's in maybe the third density, third dimension, third level, and we've started to take it up to the fourth and fifth dimension, right? Which is love, right? It's loving others. It's realizing to let go of what you've been experiencing, to let go of what you've been going through, and love other people as you would want to be loved yourself. Pretty sure that's a religious statement as well, which is, again, another discussion. So it's like, to ascend, it's to finally heal, learn, and grow through your experiences, in my opinion. I mean, again, like if anybody wants to know, where is she? Where is my baby of a book? This book right here, this for me is everything. This is the foundational structure of everything. I've got all four of the books. The third one's actually on its way because, sent it in the wrong order, but whatever. But this right here, this is everything, my friend. Like, by the look on your face, have you seen this book before?
I've heard of it. I've definitely heard of this book. This is definitely the type of book I want to sit down and read.
Do yourself a favor and get it on Amazon after this. Like, I wish I was the author. The amount of people I've suggested this book to, I swear down.
Yeah.
But it's like that. It's understanding the law of one, understanding that you are of the creator. On a religious note, I know a lot of people think God is, above them, that God is this and they have to aspire.
Right.
But they're actually praying to themselves. So they are giving their love and gratitude to themselves without even realizing, because from that one point, everything else emanates from it. right? You, me, plants, trees, rocks, stones, earth, sun, stars, space, everything. Everything emanates from that singular point. And again, like, it's not to knock religion, it is what it is, but the ascension is getting closer and closer to that origin point, you know, going through the fourth dimension, going through the fifth dimension. And the reason why everyone is going through such a storm at the minute is because they're being forced. We're out of time. The ascension is here. We're either going to go on or we're going to go somewhere else and keep learning the same lessons again.
So pretty much what's that saying? What you're saying there is kind of like underneath everything, we're not really separated, and really at a certain point of consciousness, we're not split into individual consciousness, and we're all connected as one. So whether you give love to yourself or you give love to this person, ultimately you're giving love back to that one source. Absolutely. And that is everybody, and that's one, right?
That's it, man. It's a good summing up. I love it. Yeah. That's exactly it.
See, yeah, I think that I have this is far out, but I don't know, kind of like DNA. I need to learn more, but from the stuff I have read, it's like DNA encoded information inside that it comes out very intuitively when I meditate a lot. And I don't need to read a lot of books for these things to come out. It's almost like it's already in me. I just have to remember them. It's
fascinating. And yeah. I love that because, you know, I don't know if you've looked into it, but maybe you're channeling. Well, you definitely will be channeling, but I would look into that.
Oh, channeling. Yeah. So like if I meditate for like an hour and either I'm on my phone or I'm journaling, I would write down like paragraphs after paragraphs without thinking. It's just flowing into the words. Like words is coming out of me, and it would solve my life's problem. Like it would tell me why I'm depressed right now. It would tell me my emotional blocks. It would tell me my career block. It would tell me all these things. And I'm like, what's going on?
Out of curiosity, how much have you explored that?
A lot more recently. I've started experiencing my awakening since I was 18. I'm 23 now. So it's been 5 years, but it's been 5 on and off year, because in the first 3 to 3.5 years, try to go back to sleep a lot. Not because I wasn't learning more information, but I really, like, in a 3D reality level, I try to hang out with people who had no knowledge of these things, because I couldn't break out of my shell. I couldn't, you know, I kept my mask on. So I fit in with everybody else. And now I'm like, no more of that. I need to step into my purpose. I like, the more I try to do that, the more, the longer I postpone depression. It just keeps coming and going. And every time it comes back now, like, I used to be depressed for like 3 weeks straight. Like 3 weeks, I would not be able to do anything. Now, every time I feel a sense of depression, it will be like half a day to maximum a day. And then the next day, I'm like, okay, I know what's wrong. Let's go this direction.
That to me is like, man, you're this close, and you've got all the answers you need. You're this close to letting go of it altogether. And doing videos like this, doing stuff like this, and talking on videos yourself, you watch it disappear altogether.
Right, because the words kind of brings you into that new reality. Like, being able to speak those things, that, like, it's hard for me when I read the information and I know it in my head, but when I'm speaking about it, I'm like, wow, I'm here, not there. Like, if I have the information, I might be like, I understand this, but I feel like I'm here. But when I speak it, I feel like I'm over here now. When I speak it, I feel like I'm embodying what I know, rather than just having information about it in my head. Yeah, it feels like the changes and the progress are more real when I speak it.
Keep speaking to them, man.
Yeah. That's amazing. So enough about those topics. Those are pretty cool. But there's another thing that I really want to talk about, which is problems about manhood. This is something I'm very passionate about. So what do you think of some of men's modern problems today? Why are men dysfunctional? And is there a right way or wrong way to being a man?
The first thing is I'm interested as to why you said that men are dysfunctional.
Why men are dysfunctional is because I feel like men have a large suicidal rate. I feel like men's are not very a lot of time not in tune with their emotions. The fact that they can't even go out there to get girls is hard. They can't go out there and find themselves a partner that is of their own desire, not the partner that the only one that's gonna like them, but the one that they really desire to have. There are a lot of them, especially my generation, are not able to attract women. So how are we supposed to breed more human if we can't attract any human? That's the problem. That's dysfunctional. If you're in your bed playing video games all day and then having your hands in your pants all day, and you're not building muscle, you're not building your brain, you're not building a career, that to me is the problem. That something is going on there that's very dysfunctional.
I mean, to me, the first thing to start with is, are those people, and I know we're talking about men, but we're just going to break it down to people just for the sake of this. Right. Are they being true to who they are? Because there's the first thing, right? I'm 25 years old, and if you look at me, like I look like I'm one of the lads from around me. I used to be, I used to hang around with a lot of guys and stuff like that. I separated myself from all of that very, very quickly. Yeah. Because I realized I'm like, these people aren't who they say they are. They're all pretending. They're all just pretending to be something they're not. I mean, I went on Netflix the other day just to watch the next installment of Better Call Saul. It's a great TV show. And I saw this thing that's at #1, and it's like, I can't remember what it is. It's like Too Hot to Handle. That's it. Too Hot to Handle, yeah? And it's this TV show where all of these apparently super sexy, amazing, gorgeous, good-looking people go on there and they're not allowed to have sex with each other. I'm like,
I know that.
I'm like, man, I'm 25 years old and this is absolutely ridiculous to me. I'm like, you want to know where the problem is? It's right there. Because I tell you what, right? Most of the people who, I'll quote you, who can't go out there and find a partner, can't go out there and be with people, these people are watching stuff like this. They're embodying this. Yeah, they're doing the whole thing like what my generation did, where they're like, keep them keen and, treat me and keep them keen and all this garbage, man, where people are pretending to be someone they're not, right? I might look like a thug on the outside, but on the inside, I'm a man of love. Like I have compassion, love for others, whilst also defending and having my boundaries. And that's the key. Don't just go out there and try and find the girl with the perfect arse or, the best body or whatever. Go out there to find someone who you connect with. Right. And it's not to say if you want to go out there with a fitness model and you're a bodybuilder who looks absolutely whatever, like, that'll happen, but have no expectation. Go out there to make connections with people and see what happens. Like some of the relationships I've had, the only reason they've happened is just because I made a connection with them. I didn't look at who they were before I got to know them.
Right.
And then
so if somebody's so I feel like when they're not being themselves like that, it's not just I feel like it's not just not being themselves, because I feel like there's a lack of moving forward as well, right? Somebody could be moving forward and still not being themselves, and these very specific people I named I feel like it's lacking the traits that would help them move forward in life. Because somebody could be a total jerk and still can attract women, still can get a nice career, still can provide. He's just a jerk and he won't. So that's kind of where I'm going with this. Is why are these young men are not able to embrace masculinity and it's completely lack masculine traits, and therefore they're only staying in their bedroom.
Well, look, like it comes down to the idea of what is the masculine and feminine, because I can only ever come from and I use the word balanced sparingly, but right. I can only come from a balanced perspective, right? So when a guy is trying to adopt masculine traits, like you say, like, okay, so he's speaking to the girl, she doesn't care about him because he's seen as a tart or whatever, he's seen as a wuss or whatever word you use to describe him, right? It's like, it depends what kind of woman you want to be with, right? If you want to be with a woman who is super, got a hard nature, like her in herself is very masculine and powerful, then if you're a super soft person, then just don't probably waste your time. Because if you're then going to try and be masculine just to appeal to a girl who, you know, is just like not interested, then it is what it is. In fact, let me just backtrack a second. There's a few components to this. The first thing is, have you actually spoken to a girl? Do you know what I mean? Like that's the key one. I don't even know where I'm going with this. Like the first thing is like actually going and speaking to people, right? And if they're like, oh, well, you know, what do I say? How do I just have confidence? Go up, hey, how you doing? In fact, ironically, I mean, this is not like in any other like hidden way, but the girl who's down here, I saw her training and walked up to her. I was like, how you doing? I was like, do you want to train sometime? We're meant to be training on Tuesday or whatever. So you see, it's like this is the thing, man. Like, don't be afraid of just speaking to someone. If she looked at me and said, get out of my face, you scrub, I'm like, all right, Jesus, you know, like I obviously don't want to be involved romantically, friendship-wise, or in general, because this person's nasty as hell. You know, not even open to just saying hello. You know, it's not like I walked over there naked and been like, how you doing? It's like, no, just like, hey, you know, what are you training? You know, so it's like, again, there's these massive misconceived perceptions. Like if you go up to a girl, she completely blows you off. Like you have your answer, walk away. It's all right. It's cool. Don't worry about it. You know, like get over it.
I think it's a common misconception that is because of the man and not because of the woman that they're talking to.
Well, now you're getting into because obviously I was talking from a masculine perspective, but the same goes for women. It's so like, it's completely dependent upon each individual. Like for instance, you know, you could go up to a man or woman and you could either have a really nice, hey, yeah, I'm great, how are you? Or a F off, get out of my face, you're a state. Like it does either way. It's the only way you answer this question is by understanding you're just talking to an individual person. So you don't need to have masculine traits, right? I wouldn't go up to a girl and be like, give me that half a pint, I'm just going to neck it or whatever, or go up to her and, you know, say, how you doing, bird? I'd go up and be like, hey, how you doing? Right? In a feminine way. How's it going? You all right? You know, it's not exactly like the most masculine thing. So again, it's like, you're going to attract who it is that you connect with if you're just yourself.
Right.
Don't try and be anything other than yourself. You know, like I used to do that. And it was the worst experience of my life until I just was myself. And ironically, I got a lot more attention that way. You know, I met so many more people just because I was myself. I'm a geek. I play Xbox. I watch anime, right? I watch movies. I watch series. I listen to death metal. I listen to rap, grime. I listen to opera. Like I'm the full package, you know, like so I don't deny who I am.
Right.
And if someone doesn't like it, then man, it's not meant to be.
Right. Absolutely. See that's a good message there. That it's just you're okay just who you are, and you don't. You know, I feel like a lot of us feel like we have to shape up for the right person.
Of course, man.
And
Take that TV program.
Right. It is a programming. It's a cultural programming. Right. That's true. So what would you consider masculine traits?
Masculine traits is fire, man. It's movement. It's aggression in the right way. When I'm in the gym, it's like a beast has walked in, man. Like for 10 years of my life, I trained like that. That's to me, you know, being masculine is being the protector. It's being, you know, it's having those boundaries. It's being able to say no. It's being able to move. It's being able to embody who you are, right? Be who you are without changing yourself for anybody else. That's what being a man to me is, you know, or having that masculine trait is being able to accept and adopt everything and adapt, right? Adapt to survive. What does the masculine do? You see how it's like it works its way, you know? What does the masculine do? Like you get female special ops agents or people like, man, they could beat the hell out of me. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's, you know, they don't have to be a man to do that. Like they could go on a 15-mile run and I'd be like, you know, crawling on my back and, you know, coming along the way. So again, like this is why it's such a paradoxical question, because the masculine energy, it is the fire, you know, it's the other component of the yin and the yang, it's the movement. And yeah, that's it.
So do you believe that for people it's like a spectrum, like everybody, it's not that they're either masculine or feminine, that they are on a spectrum of whether it's 90-10 or 80-20 or 70-30 to 50-50?
Yeah, I mean, think of it this way. If you have a guy that beats the hell out of his missus and treats his children like garbage and does all of these things, that guy probably doesn't understand what the feminine is.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't understand that, see, he's got the fire, he's got the movement, he's got the action, but there's no nurturing, there's no compassion, there's no understanding, right? And that's why it's like when you can get all of these and bring them into yourself, it's where you become again, in my opinion, an amazing human being.
Right.
Because it's like you can be the protected defender and at the same time love and nurture at the same time, you know, and not have to push your boyfriend or girlfriend's face in the mud just because you think that dominance gives you power. It doesn't, right? It will never truly give you what it is that you really want, because you're not developing that connection, you know. Or let me rephrase that. You do not know what you're missing out on if that's how you are, you know, because if you can bring someone in and have those two, that's a relationship, man. That's a relationship, in my opinion.
Do you believe that all men needs to achieve this balance? Is that a reasonable expectation, or is that like an ideal way to be, or is that just a choice of how to be?
It's a choice of how to be, because who am I to expect anyone to do anything?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm just a guy here that's preaching a message. It's like, in my opinion, if somebody wants to find true freedom, peace, and happiness, that's how you go about it.
Mm.
But like I said to you in the beginning, it's like, how do we know what actions we take are doing for others, even a good and a bad note? You know, so it's like, if somebody wants to fight, if they're going through these things where like, oh, well, every girl is leaving me because I'm an a-hole, then be like, try connecting with your feminine, you know. Mm-hmm. Try connecting with the loving, nurturing side of yourself. Do you even know what it is? Have you ever heard of it? Were you ever shown it? Nah, of course not. You know, my parents did this, or the boys did that. It's like, oh, let go of that. It obviously ain't doing you any good, is it? So let's introduce this into your life and see what happens. So in my opinion, if you want to find that happiness balance, and if you want to please a lot more people than you are now, in a sense of, again, service to others is service to yourself, find the balance.
I found that when I try to develop more of the feminine, the masculine started decreasing a little bit, because I'm paying attention to the feminine, and then when I try to pay attention to the masculine, then the feminine is lacking a little. So I'm struggling to find a little bit of a balance here.
Yeah, and this is where, again, excellent point, to solidify it is just by being who you are. Because the minute that you try to do anything other, and then, you know, in saying that, somebody might say, well, you're telling me to be who I am an arsehole, right? Like, that's who I am, you know. So then again, it comes back around to the case, well, do you want to be that? That's when then you work on it, you know, you work on who you really are. So it's like, it's just about knowing both, you know. Communication, like, this is the key. If you're talking about like, if you talk about working with people, being with people, and you find yourself going backwards and forwards, and somebody's clearly upset, be like, okay, what did I do? Did I upset you? You know, communicating with someone, saying like, look, what you said really upset me. That's why I want to go in at you and call you all the names under the sun. Can we talk about it? You know, stopping it before it gets to the war, you know? Mm-hmm. So
is there like a way, is there like a time when a man should have a relationship and shouldn't have a relationship?
Again, it's like, who am I to say? It's to answer that question, it's right. Impossible, because each person's different. Who am I to say when the right and wrong time is? Because again, like, you could take a guy that's angry and aggressive, gets in a relationship, and because of what happens between them, she ends up going to be a multi-millionaire, saving thousands of lives. And he ends up going to be a very successful businessman, teaching men how to love. It's like, it's infinite. So there's no way to say.
Right. Exactly. That's so true. That's very true. That's amazing. What's your that's very interesting. See, I really like your perspective on those topics, because it's not like I think you're very right. When it comes to a certain paradigm, there's no definite answer, because like the example you just gave is like, somebody could have told me that it wasn't a right time for me to get into this relationship with this person because look what happened. Look what happened. We messed it up. But because we messed it up, it triggers something great in us, and then we went a totally different path. So who's to
And
say that was wrong?
not only that, but how are you supposed to know before you get in the relationship?
Mm,
So
right.
whoever gave you that advice is like, are you a fortune teller? Do you know the future? Do you know what I mean? Like, well, yeah, I got in the relationship. How was I supposed to know I was going to pan out? I was looking for that love. Yeah. I wanted that attention, that affection, that physical relationship with someone. So it's like, again, it's a paradox. You just can't know. So therefore it's not even worth thinking about. Just
Right.
let it go. And it's part of the big, the big
Right.
fear, the big play.
That's awesome. So the last thing I want to get into today is manifestation. So what's been your experience with manifestation? How does somebody manifest? Because when you listen to the self-help, self-improvement industry, they believe in some kind of visualization, but they don't believe in the way the spiritual community kind of talks about manifestation. It all sounds kind of woo woo and fairy like to them. So how would you talk about this?
First thing
Trying
I'd
to
say is
connect the
that,
two world.
yeah, well, I'm about to destroy it for a lot of people. Like the first thing is that most of the stuff out there is woo woo and it is fluff and it is BS.
Mhm.
Because think of it this way, right? It comes back to what we said in the beginning. Most people are like, be high vibe. If you ain't high vibe, you ain't going to attract what you want. And it's like, how are you supposed to be high vibe when one of your family members has just died? How are you supposed to be high vibe when you're in a 12-hour a day job and you're working 7 days a week? Your car's just broken down, your house has fallen apart, your dog's just, do you know what I mean? Like to tell somebody
Right.
to be high vibe is irresponsible because it doesn't work the same for each people in their life. My answer to manifestation is to discover your purpose and
Mm.
then, because the minute you find your purpose, I promise you, and I don't promise lightly, when you discover your purpose, everything will conspire to make it happen. I am living, breathing proof of it. I have not worked a job for 5 years. I've been self-employed for 5 years. I've lost 2 businesses. I've been involved in a business that failed. I lost my house. I lost my car. I'm back home with the parents. Doesn't bother me. I don't care. While I'm building things back up, it's like at the beginning of this year, the high chances was looking that I was going to have to go and get a job. Something come along. Every single time I was going to fail, something come along to keep me going. Why? Because I'm living my purpose. Because for me, I will die before I quit doing what I'm doing. And that might be extreme for some people, and I get that. But for me, that's the alternative. I'm either going to die. I was prepared to go homeless 2 years ago to do this, and I'd have done it, but something come along. Right? Because this is a part of this cosmic play we're in. This is a part of the whole thing. They're always, visualize it in your mind and get yourself there and, draw it down and burn it and fire it and do the, yeah, cool. It's good to have a visualization. Know what you want, right? Know what you want, but follow the path, and if you come up some roadblocks, if you come up to some negative emotions and like, I don't think I'll ever get it, entertain it. Don't shut it off like it's some kind of thing that doesn't exist. It exists. It's a part of who you are. It's a part of the process. And to ignore it, well, I mean, like, I'm part of groups on Facebook where everyone's like, manifest this and type 111 for it to happen. I'm like, look, yeah, I get you want to put $1 million in your bank account, but you got to work for it. Like anyone that's going to manifest $1 million, like the amount of hours I put into the stuff I do is disgusting.
Right.
Like it is disgusting, man. Like, I work for this,
Yeah.
and that's the key. Like if you think it's going to be given to you on a silver platter, it might do. Who am I to say? But why would you want it to be? Like, I love the process, man. I love being in this. The money doesn't matter to me. It's about what I'm doing. So manifestation for me is creating by using your creative energy, not by expecting it to fall out of the sky, which it could do. Again, who am I to say otherwise? But the path, man, it's a part of the path. The end game doesn't matter so much as the journey. When you hear a story, it isn't told from the end. It's told all the way through until you get to the end, And that to me that's it,
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right about that. It really is the process, and every time I've focused on the end result, I become anxious and depressed, and things go the wrong way. Yep. Yep. But I I've also noticed this too, which is this is how I know using the camera to take photos and videos is definitely part of my purpose, because every time I pick it up, it's almost like the universe just brings people to me. All of a sudden, somebody
Hmm.
calls me to go to the skate park, and I go there, and all these amazing things happen, and I capture all these amazing moments, and every model that I hit up just want to work with me, and now
Hmm.
they're being attracted to me and coming towards my way and wanting to work with me before I even ask for them.
There you
And
go,
before
man.
that, I'm like, what is going on here? How is this happening?
Hmm.
And then yeah, so and then whenever I feel like anxious and depressed about something, like the other day I felt depressed about something and I meditated for an hour, and this answer came out and it says you're being depressed and anxious because you're focusing so much on the results, on the views you're getting, and not the process of how you're doing it. Maybe you don't enjoy this process, that's why it's feeling like work, and that's why it's putting pressure and strains on you. So change up the way you're doing something and focus on the process, because success is inevitable when a guy's like you enjoy the process. And I'm
There
like,
you go.
wow, this is amazing, and this is coming from meditation. And it's
Hmm.
just coming, I'm just writing this out without even thinking at all, because I know that my brain is on a different brainwave now. I'm not in the analytical mind anymore, and this stuff's just coming out. And this is, so that's amazing, you know.
And
Yeah.
this is the thing, like when it comes to views, one person at a time.
Yeah.
That is it. That's how I started, bro. Like I've been doing these videos. How old am I now? 18 years old. So I've been doing these 7 years, longer than that.
Mm.
Like 8, 9 years, like posts and then moving into videos. Like it takes one person at a time. And then eventually, before you know it, you've got 7 people who always watch your stuff. Then you've got 8, 10, 15. And then that's when you start getting thousands and millions of followers. You
Right.
know, that's the key. It's just one person at a time. It's people. This is a people game. You
Mm.
know, like people are like, oh, I need 10 billion views. It's like, trust me, I want to get there. You know, I'd love to have 150. I mean, I've had a few videos that have been over a million, but not a load of them. But
Mm.
I'd love to consistently have 450,000 people watching a video, you know, awesome. But I understand it's one person at a time. And do you know what? I can usually love and support the people who see the lowest amount of videos more than I can than the ones that get like ridiculous amounts of views, you know?
Right, because those are more of your core supporters, your
There you go.
core fans. Yeah. So how would you so how would you advise somebody? So I feel a call to do these kind of work similar to yours. I don't know about being a coach, but I definitely liked to be the ones who bring coaches together, the ones who talks to the coaches, and I would like to be a teacher myself. I don't know about coaching people one-on-one. I don't know how I feel about that yet, but I definitely feel a calling that I must do something that revolves around bringing people from this paradigm to this paradigm up here. So this is, I'm starting the journey of doing that work, but I'm having this weird feeling about uh, I feel like I'm not credible enough. Don't have enough credibility to talk about the things I'm talking about, even though I have experience with them. And how do you overcome something like that when you started?
Well, the first thing is just keep doing it. Right, the first thing, it sounds dumb, right? But the first thing is just keep posting the videos. The minute you stop posting the videos is the minute there's your answer. You ain't going to get any more. You ain't
Mm-hmm.
going to move any further. And secondly, based on whose opinion are you not credible?
Uh, nobody.
And this is the thing, right? When it comes to certificates, everyone's like, oh, I'm a bachelor's, honors degree, this and this and that. I'm like, yeah, tell me about this and the structure of that. And all they know is what they've been taught from someone else, right? A degree, a lesson, a school, it's somebody's opinion on what they think something is, right? So my perspective is, what's the best teacher? Experience, man. You said it yourself. You even said it. You're like, I've got the experience, but I just don't know. If you've got the experience, what else matters? My advice for you is just, if you, I mean, coaching, it is or it isn't, you know, like you're either passionate about it or not. Take someone on for free. Say to someone, hey, listen, let me coach you for 60 minutes. See how you feel about it. Are you comfortable? Can I provide you a loving, safe environment so that you can talk about what it is you're going through? Maybe I've got some solutions for you. Just take them on the journey, man. You know enough. Never discredit how much you know, because it doesn't matter if somebody's 60 years old or 5 years old. You ever heard some 5-year-old kids? They come out with some stuff, man, and I'm like, where did they get that wisdom from? I'm like, what? I've got loads of friends who have got kids, man, and they're like, their kids will say something and it's just like knowledge from another dimension. I'm like, what is your kid, So honestly, like, wisdom and knowledge comes from anywhere. Never discredit. It doesn't matter. Like, how did I get to where I am now? Books, man, videos, movies, bro. People don't understand, like, films have so many messages in them. I mean, I don't even want to admit how many films I've actually seen, but it is what it is. Like, movies have the deepest lessons, and that's how you can learn. I've been a gamer all my life. I've been a movie series all my life. Doesn't mean I haven't been out there in the world, but it taught me so much. So.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for that, man. Thanks for that. Cause
pleasure.
I need something like that to makes me little push towards doing my own thing, Yeah, definitely. Good. I really appreciate everything you talked about today, man. Really gives me and everybody else who's going to be watching this a lot of insight on a lot of these processes, because sometimes it's a messy process what these people are going through, what all of us go through. I think when we're going through the ascension process, or we're going through the awakening process, and there's nobody around us who are going through the same thing, and we're not sure, and we can't find any answers, and it can be tough for a person like that. And I also want to do these type of video because I want to normalize these type of concepts. I want to normalize these kind of conversations. That was the whole point of me interviewing a lot of people, was so that everybody could see that, wow, it's not just me trying to preach about this stuff, is all these people who have the same understanding, is aware of this paradigm of thinking as well. So now, if there's a lot of perspective pointing at a reality, then people are going to acknowledge that reality as real more.
Absolutely. And listen, like, when you post this, I'll be sure to share it, like, to all of my people as much as possible. This has been a serious conversation. It's been so important. It's been awesome. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to connect with somebody like you, man. Like, I definitely need more people like this in my life. I need everybody in my life to be like this.
Likewise, man, you'll find them. Do you know what I mean? So last year was the ones when I find my people, so they'll come. Trust me.
Yep, absolutely. Well, thanks, James. Thanks a lot.
Right. Take care, buddy.
Where send me over your Instagram, so I'll add you on Instagram so I can tag you in whenever I start posting this stuff, and also your email as well, so I can send it over to your email with these videos when I'm done.
Sound good, bro.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, man. Take care.